The founder president of Ayman, Rishabh Shah, distinguished board of advisors, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the Ayman alumni and students. I can admit that usually I'm fortunate that we have a class with Gaur Gopal Prabhu every week. And the only person who speaks is him and not us. But now I have to speak today, so it's a challenge. But I was just thinking about this. Last year, it was the height of COVID. And people were scared to go out. And there was a huge scramble for hospital beds, for medicines. And you had to be the most influential person, and yet you could not get a bed. And that was a time when there was this website which was created in which people from all over the country could identify where there were hospital beds. And this website, which was really run by kids of 16 to 22, could find 200,000 beds all over the country. So can you imagine the impact this was done? We all talk about climate change, we all talk about deforestation. We've had so many conferences. But here it was the year before COVID, and you found students, young students from schools, planting 99 lakh trees in a year. Isn't that a contribution to the environment? Again, who did it? Young students from schools. And who was behind this? What was the organization that was behind this? And that we all are really proud to be associated with is Ayman. So let's give a big hand to all of you here today for continuously doing things in a very silent manner, in a very quiet manner, but a very effective manner. And at the heart of all this is a person who says his heart beats for India, and that is our founder president, Rishabh Shah. And I think Prabhuji stole my words. I would have used the same analogy. It is like salt in a dish. When you have the right amount of salt, you don't appreciate it because it just merges with it. But when it is too much or it is too little, then you realize that the only taste is because of the salt. I think Rishabh is to Ayman exactly what salt is to our food. I'm amazed that somebody at 18 years started an organization like this and went on for 10 years. I've been also starting organizations or been associated. But to run an organization for 10 years requires a lot of perseverance, a lot of hard work. And again, I have just no words but to say that I'm so proud of it. And I must say that you've done a tremendous job. To have started something which has 220 chapters, 26,000 alumni, and today 6,000 students is no mean feat. I think the mission of Ayman, uniting the world the Indian way, these are not just words that we want to say, but I do believe that this is the time for India. We've had several challenges today, more than what we could have seen anywhere else. I mean, who could have imagined that the whole world would come to a halt with COVID? That's the new reality. I mean, with all the technology, all the flights were shut, the entire country transport was shut. And yet, these are things, and one of the reasons for all this is, of course, in my view, what's happening with the environment, with the climate. And I think this is the challenge which we have to face. The other big challenge is the rising inequality. If you recognize that 50%, half of the poor people, have just 2% of the wealth of the world, and the top 10% have 76% of the wealth of the world. This inequality cannot last. Unfortunately, year on year, it is just increasing. The gap between the rich and the poor is increasing. How can it sustain in a world like this? I think another big challenge for us is also the stress levels that you see. I mean, social media has all its challenges, all its issues, and stress is one thing that I see. I'm involved with a few universities, including IIT and others, and I've found that over the period of time, the number of people who are now committing suicide is just, it's phenomenally gone up. Why is it that these are the most successful people, the most talented people? Why are they going through this stress is another challenge for all of us. And finally, conflict. Who would have thought what's happened? There are so many areas of conflict. I don't even want to say that, we all know. So is there an Indian way for this? I think this is really the time for India. And one of the reasons I think is also that India is now, you cannot have influence in this world unless you have economic power. And today, India is building that economic power. We are the 5th largest economy in absolute terms. This year, we beat the UK. And it is said that in purchasing parity terms, we are probably the 4th largest. It's said that in the next few years, maybe by 2038 or something like that, we'll be the 3rd largest economy in the world. So you will have the ability to say and influence the world. And so what can we do? Of course, when you hear about, in some ways, we are fortunate that we've had a culture which even 5,000 years ago set out the principles which are so valid today. At least in my knowledge, I have traveled in the world. I've gone to Egypt, I've gone to Greece. You've seen so many other the Roman civilizations, but they're all just monuments. It is only in India that you have a living civilization, a living culture, which is more than 5,000 years old. And we must recognize this and must appreciate it. And therefore, our whole concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam, the world is a family, is so relevant. And India demonstrated that during the COVID period. There was no other country which was willing to give vaccinations to the whole world, was willing to give medicines to the whole world other than India. I think this is the power which we could demonstrate, and we have to continue to do this. When we are talking about the difference between the rich and the poor and the rising inequality, our concept of trusteeship, which was first mentioned in the Gita, when it was said that we are mere trustees for the wealth that has been given to us for the benefit of society. I think that is so relevant today. We are talking about conscious capitalism and all this. It cannot, if we don't do this, there will be a challenge, and that's where we all need to look at. I think this is also the challenge, climate. You will, of course, know that the only country or the only language which calls the earth mother is what is in India. We call it Matrabhumi, Mother Earth. There is no other country which calls the land Mother Earth, because we worship land, we worship the sea, we worship the mountains, and therefore it's the importance of climate. And if I may say, just plug in for my own personal, but many others are becoming now vegetarian because you realize that it's good for the climate. So we should spread this, I think. We talked about stress. Can we use our soft influence through whether it's yoga, whether it's pranayama. We talk about all these really mindfulness everybody talks about. It's nothing else but what we've done for so many centuries. Bowman is here. The influence that Indian movies have, when I see the success of films all over, whether it's RRR and all these films, that is the power which we need to demonstrate. The US, because of Hollywood, had so much power. Now it is India's time to spread more and more of our films, our music, our dance, and our cuisine. I don't see that any variety more than what India has. So, and perhaps the biggest strength we have is the youth of our country. 65% of our population is below the age of 35. With the second largest population in the world, there is no other country which is younger, and our hope is in that. Our future is in that. And what I see here, young leaders, I believe, this is the opportunity for India, and you will take it ahead. And I wish you and Ayman all the best. Thank you.